I'm invisible.
Yes, you're invisible. Yes.
Let's
Right.
see.
So while Brian fixes his
Oh, there
video,
I
oh yes, here you are.
am.
Right. So the learners can hear us, see us. Let us know on the chat. Quickly introduce yourselves. And we're also live on YouTube right now.
Fighting
Right.
YouTube.
Yes, on YouTube as well. So it's going to be, uh, an offbeat session today. We're not going to be doing a lot of talking and teaching. So we're going to be
Oh,
asking, asking the learners to pose questions, you know,
yeah.
get their doubts answered.
This is the Ask
What?
Me Anything session. Okay.
Yes, it's an ask me anything session. Yes. Oh, yeah, I just realized I've disabled the chat, which is why the learners are not able to respond.
Oh, yeah, that might be
Yeah, yeah.
challenging.
Yep. I think now you guys will be able to post your messages. Let me know where you're from. My name is Aparna and I'm streaming from Bangalore. Bill, hi. Nice to have you. Nikki okay. Amiso,
Texan,
let's look
nice.
at Satyaprasad, someone from Texas. Kajol, okay. Sailesh from Hyderabad. Cecily, Sharvari, hi.
Africa, look at that. Okay.
Yes, someone from Africa as well. Satya, nice to have you. People on YouTube, also quickly introduce yourselves. What we could also do is a quick poll, maybe asking their professional backgrounds. That will give us
Sure.
perspective about the audience as well. So I've launched, oh, sorry, let me end the poll right here. Just a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to launch a very quick poll asking you number of years of work experience you have. You could have less than 10 years, more than 20 years, whichever your range is. Hi, Hafiz, joining us on YouTube. Bhanu Teja, hi. Nirupa, Veeramani. Great. Srijat, amazing. Experience in any field, your overall work experience. That's what we're looking at. Overall work ex.
Work experience. Okay. Oh, look at this. Kevin and Kevin, yes, right. Looking forward to that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It's
Nice.
a small world. We're
Some
all connected.
exciting stuff coming up for you, Brian. Nice.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Oh, look
Yes.
at Srija, professional artist. That's great.
Okay. Amazing. Whatever your background is, just let us know your experience on the poll. Habib, nice to have you. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. I think I'll just end the poll right here. And okay. Amazing. Yeah, I think that'll help. Also, mention your job roles on the chat. What do you work as currently?
That's
That'll
great.
also help. Someone is a project management instructor, project manager, retired Air Force, 17 years of experience, quality assurance manager. Okay, PMO.
That's great.
All right. Yeah, let us know your current job role as well. Tax advisor, Kajol. Okay.
Hmm.
Product manager, project manager. You also work for Simplilearn, Kevin. Okay, right.
Oh, yeah, Kevin,
Someone is
yeah.
someone is a student, senior product manager, knowledge base manager.
Oh, look at that. Hmm.
Right.
Got some pretty experienced people here. My goodness. That's
Correct,
great.
correct, correct, correct. 40% of them are actually, nearly 40% of them have more than 20 years of experience. Okay,
Okay.
right. So this is how the session is going to go. We'll introduce Scrum methodology to you. We'll talk about different career pathways that you can choose. And the agenda of this session is slightly different. So we don't want to be doing, the usual format that we follow. What we want to do today is do a live Q&A with Bryan. So I'd actually floated around, a link where you can post your questions, but I guess you weren't able to receive that, which is totally okay. What you could do is post your questions on the Q&A box, and as they come in, I'll pass them on to Bryan. Just ensure that your questions are not repetitive. I mean, of course, you can ask what you can do in the as a Scrum Master, or how you can transition. Of course, those questions can come in. But let's say someone else has already asked a similar question. Just try to look at the Q&A box, or maybe if you look at the recording again, you'll be able to understand the answer to this question. So I'll just keep this Q&A box public. Okay. And this way, anyone who posts a question will be able to see. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks so much, everyone, for your introductions. So because all of you are done with your introductions now, I'm going to introduce Bryan and Simplilearn to you, and then we'll jump right in. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, if you have questions, you know what to do. Put them in the Q&A box, and you stay till the end to enter your name for collecting your webinar certificates. And also, this entire session is going to be recorded. So you will receive the recording and the webinar certificate in the same email. Yeah. All right. So just a little bit about Simplilearn and what we do. Simplilearn has been operational since 2010. And ever since then, we've touched more than 8 million careers worldwide from people across 150 plus countries. We actually have 40 plus global accreditations and a lot of qualified trainers who help you upskill and become closer to your career goals in all of these domains and more, actually: project management, cybersecurity, cloud computing, AI and machine learning. And all of these courses that we have, certifications and career aligned learning paths, have Gen AI components included, right? Including the ones that are for the Agile and Scrum certifications, that are project management certifications. All of these courses have Gen AI component included. We actually have these courses. You'll understand why we have him for this live Q&A. He has more than 25 years of experience in Agile project and program management, and he's been a certified PMI trainer. He's also a SAFe practitioner. He holds the PGMP, PMP, PMI, ACP certifications. He's got a proven track record of transforming a lot of PMOs, project management offices. I'm sure a lot of you know about PMOs. Some of you are working in these as well. He also provides mentorship, coaching to a lot of learners like you. So Bryan, welcome once again to this session, and I'm really excited to kind of host you and listen to your advice today as well.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks so much for the warm introduction. Exciting to see so many folks here. Great to have a few of the Simplilearn instructors, Bill and Kevin, on the line with us too. So we've got a lot of depth to draw upon, and I know this topic is one I'm already very intrigued by the questions people are posting in the Q&A. I think we've got some good questions already beginning to emerge. So yeah, let's dig into it.
Yes, absolutely. But before we get, we'll just wait for some more questions to come in. Maybe we should just talk about, what or who is a Scrum Master really and what they do.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to begin. Let's ground ourselves. Let's kind of establish what is a Scrum Master. So for starters, when you see the term CSM, that simply stands for Certified Scrum Master. And what is a Scrum Master? Well, that's always a bit of an intriguing question. I think I might sort of categorize it as a Scrum Master is responsible for making a team great. And really, it's about focusing on how do we establish practices and behaviors that help teams achieve high performance. How can they be kind of the best version of themselves that they can be? And part of the reason this has become such a a highly sought after role in organizations and a certification that many people are pursuing is that increasing organizations are recognizing that value is delivered by the people within the organization. And to optimize value delivery, we need to enable teams so they
Mm.
can manage and deliver that value to some degree in an independent sort of self-managed fashion. And the Scrum Master there role is they're really there to help provide and enable that. So now you'll see a couple terms, the guardians of agile principles. That sounds kind of exciting, I guess. Guardian of the galaxy type of vibe to it. So there are a collection of principles and values
Yeah.
that Agile and Scrum is organized around. So the Scrum Master needs to really understand those and then help the team, really enable the team. And there's a bit of a dynamic there. So this isn't really about a Scrum Master kind of going in and telling everyone exactly what to do, how to do it, but rather inviting them into those kind of discussions and helping
Yeah.
them solve their own problems. So the Scrum Master is often described as a servant leader, person who's really focused on enabling the people on the teams.
Right, absolutely. So another question that we could address that all our bases are covered is why should someone really consider becoming a Scrum Master? A lot of them here have 20 years of
Yeah.
experience, someone sometimes even more. So why should they now consider switching to becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful question, and I think there's a couple drivers behind this. The first is, and it I think in the backdrop here we have this AI question lurking around. One of the Q&A questions, yeah, is the Scrum Master still going to be relevant with all this AI focus and emphasis? And I think the short answer to that is absolutely.
Mm.
The Scrum Master is still going to be very relevant, and the big reason for that is that yes, there are some practices that, Scrum Masters are going to apply, and you can look at the scrum.org guide
Mm.
for what they need to do. But more importantly, this is about connecting with people. And I
Yeah,
think one of the things that we've consistently seen is AI is just not strong in something that humans get a lot of value from, which is this
yeah,
sense of connection, this establishing community. So I think there might be, two answers to this. One is organizations have recognized actually at the end of the day, it's about finding effective ways for people to collaborate, to interact, to work together. I think AI is also demonstrating that, yeah, if you've got, really kind of finite technical skills in certain areas, AI does have it's probably going to displace a fair amount of that type of work. But this
yeah.
area, I think, is always going to be critical to organizations and just to people in general. So I think that's part of the reason there's so much interest in pursuing a career as a Scrum Master.
Right. Got it. I think now let's just switch to live questions that are coming in.
Sure.
So Alok has a question. He has 15 years of PMO experience. How
Hmm.
do I get a break as a Scrum Master having cleared CSM only last week? Okay. Firstly, great
Okay.
job, Alok. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Brian, over to you.
congratulations, Alok. Yeah, that's very exciting. So, right, okay, so you've got your CSM, you're eager to get into the space, you want to be a Scrum Master. Obviously, I'm certain you're already exploring some of these paths, but looking at, opportunities in the LinkedIn and Dice and other sort of job forums is obviously a good place to start. You've got a fantastic background, 15 years of project management and PMO experience is immediately going to get you probably to the top of the list. But let's kind of look at this through a different lens. Maybe you're not able to get those opportunities for any number of reasons. I would encourage you to create them yourself. If you are currently employed in an organization, you've gotten your CSM, bring in some of these ideas. Say to
Hmm.
your colleagues, your peers, and say, hey, let's let's try out some of these ceremonies. Let's have a planning event. Let's start thinking about working in these short time boxed periods called sprints. Let's have daily stand-ups. Let's do
Mm.
reviews, demonstrates work that's been completed. Let's have a retrospective. And even if you're maybe in an organization that possibly has a little bit of resistance to this, I've worked in some very large organizations, and then sometimes, for a variety of valid reasons, they really prefer to use more traditional waterfall style delivery practices. But they're still very often very open to ideas like, yeah, let's do a retrospective. Let's ask how we can improve as a team. Let's have some check-ins on a daily basis to identify if we've got issues or impediments. So in their
Mm.
current organization, just start bringing in some of those practices. And there'll be two things about that I think you'll benefit from. The first is you can point to the fact that, hey, I'm actually doing this. So if
Yeah.
you're looking for other roles, you can say, I've got hands-on, practical, real-world experience applying these techniques. But the second thing is actually you're going to learn a lot just by
Mm.
doing, right? You're going to say, gosh,
Yeah.
the course made it sound so easy, but here in my organization, I've had to kind of learn and develop some additional techniques. So that's what I would encourage you to do is, just if you're not able to get a job right away as a Scrum Master, bring those techniques in. And generally speaking,
Mm.
most people are very receptive to them.
Right. And probably that's what one should highlight in their resume as well, because that's a question that we've got when we apply for these CSM roles. So maybe demonstrate all that you've done and kind of highlight that and make sure you're positioning yourself as a Scrum Master already, instead of saying that you're a complete fresher. Maybe that's a
Right.
good idea.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
All right. All right. So let's move on to the next question, which is related to the best practices. So what are the best practices that should be taken care of in Scrum, and how do we ensure that deadlines are met, quality is met?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It
Hmm.
looks like this, how to monitor the daily scrum. That's an interesting question too. So, yeah, a few
Yeah.
things. Obviously, the CSM certification is going to give you lots of context on what are those effective practices. I'm always a little reluctant to use the term best practices because that kind of
Mm.
implies there's only one way to do something. Yet in most of our agile values and principles, it's all about adapting and responding to change and finding different ways to kind of deliver value. So, but there are effective practices. So, for example, if we want to think about something like the daily scrum, this
Hmm.
is that um, meeting that occurs. It's a short duration meeting every day for 15 minutes. The team comes together and we check in on what did you do yesterday? What are you planning to do today? Do you have any issues or challenges? So what are some effective practices we might look for in that setting? Well, the very first one, of course, is attendance. We want the entire team to attend that session. Why? Because we want to both build a sense of community as a team. Okay, and we can't do that if some people aren't attending. We also want to understand if there's an issue, if there's something preventing us from getting something done, the sooner we understand that, the sooner we can remove that impediment. So really important to kind of do
Mm.
this every day. So it's important that we hold it on a daily basis. We also want to keep it short. Let's face it, who
Mm.
likes long meetings? Well, not too many
Yeah.
people. So let's keep it to 15 minutes, short and sweet. And this
Mm.
is part of the reason this meeting is often a stand-up meeting, because not surprisingly, when people are standing, meetings tend to be shorter. So
Sure.
this is a good opportunity to kind of try that out. So those are a few ideas on some practices you could consider specifically for that daily scrum.
Yeah. Right. Another question. Do we take the AI question now or later? So let's do it now.
Why not?
Bhushan has this, yeah, so Bhushan has this question with AI advancing so much, there's so much growth in the domain as well. So will the Scrum Master still stay relevant in the future, or do you think, an AI tool is going to take over this
Scrum
particular role?
Master in a box. So no. Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. And I think it's not
Mm.
just a question being asked in this domain. It's really
Yeah.
in so many different areas. So the short answer again is I personally feel strongly that the role of the Scrum Master, again, the Scrum Master is there to make the team great, act as
Mm.
a servant leader, connect with the team, ensure that they understand the value of the work they're producing, the priority of that work, really answering the why questions. And this is something AI
Hmm.
has just not demonstrated it's able to really do an effective job on. At the end of the day, this is about people doing work. Scrum Masters are really people-centric. So really
Yeah.
focusing, creating those high-performing teams. Now, that does not mean AI is going to provide a lot of very helpful techniques and tools and maybe take some of the administrivia out of the work that perhaps has been performed in the past. But I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, we're still going to have a real strong need for Scrum Masters in particular.
Right. Right. I think that answers your question, Bhushan. So I think that's true for any domain or any role, and obviously it applies to the role of Scrum Master as well. So we've got another question here about, okay, what does a customer success manager do? I'm not sure if that's relevant to becoming a Scrum Master, but we have another question which says, how is a CSM different from a support or an account manager?
Got it. Yeah, I see that one. So yeah, so a customer success manager generally is focused, like the name suggests, on the
Mm,
customer and
mm,
what they view as success. So a
mm,
lot of times you see customer success manager roles working in sort of product organizations. Someone has
mm,
bought something, maybe a company has bought your software product and they're
yeah.
trying to figure out the best way to use it and get value from it. So that's where a customer success manager really steps into its role. Now, I'm certain if we had someone who is a CSM, and I've got some colleagues who work in this space, they could probably do a much more detailed job of describing this particular role. However, a few things to highlight here. A customer success manager can absolutely pull on a lot of the
Mm,
practices and techniques that a certified Scrum Master would apply. So what would that look like? Well, among some of the things, you're connecting with your customer or your stakeholder, you're understanding what it is that they need. You're
yeah.
documenting that in sort of a lightweight fashion with a clear understanding of what success looks like. And then
Yeah.
you're checking in with them. You're giving an opportunity to kind of show them progress and get their
Mm,
feedback. And then you need to, you can make some adjustments. You can adapt based on that feedback. So customer success managers often do leverage a lot of the practices that Scrum Masters use.
mhm.
And in fact, I think there's some great opportunities if you are a CSM, a customer success manager, to leverage these techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all transferable skills, is what you're saying. All right.
Very.
Great, 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 great. So another question, which I think we always answer in the other webinars as well, is so is the role of a CSM a technical role? Does it require someone to kind of
Mhm.
know, how technology works, how tech infrastructure works, and all of that?
Right. Yeah, so
Mm,
the general response to this is it's not a technical role. Okay, this is
mm,
really a role that focuses on the team, uh, creating sort of effective team dynamics. Part of
mm,
this is often, helping people express themselves and to feel psychologically safe so they
yeah.
can ask those questions, maybe challenge underlying assumptions. So, now, if you happen to have technical skills, they're certainly not going
Mm,
to get in the way of being
mm,
a good Scrum Master. But at the end of the day, remember the role of the Scrum Master is to make the team great. How do I create a high performing team? So a lot
mm,
of the techniques that you're going to hear about as a CSM are going to kind of fall into what we might classically describe as soft skills.
yeah.
Okay, these are active listening skills and facilitation skills and really any skills are going to help people just feel plugged in, connected, kind of establish that sense of community. So it is not uncommon for
Mm,
Scrum Masters, and having been one myself for many years and coached many Scrum Masters, for example, you try and make fun things. So when you hear this idea of a retrospective, which is at the end of each sprint, the team gathers and they just check in and say, hey, how did things go? What can we do to maybe get better? Where there's some challenges that we'd like to address in the next sprint. It's not uncommon for the Scrum Master to say, hey, that retro is actually a really good opportunity for some team building. Let's do an ice cream social. We'll bring in some ice cream. You all make a little ice cream sundae, and then we have this conversation. So you kind of get as a Scrum Master, you're finding ways, just find fun activities for the team to kind of connect over and really build that sense of identity.
Right. So apart from these soft skills, I mean, of course, active listening, like you said, a little bit of empathy, all of these are required. So what other skills do you think someone needs to become a successful Scrum Master?
Yeah, so in addition to those skills, I mean, what I've seen good Scrum Masters, I think there's a couple elements here. The first is often they have a natural sense of organization. These are folks that do
Mm,
feel pretty comfortable saying, "Hey, let's write down the things that we need to get done. Let's check in with ourselves as we're making
mm,
progress against those." I think those are really important as a Scrum Master. So yes, you're gonna you're gonna connect with your colleagues. You're gonna be good with these soft skills, but in addition you're also in a work management tool. You're making sure things are getting updated, that the
mm,
metrics that the team is going to leverage really reflects the work that they're doing. So you've got a little bit of that orientation as well, which is why it's not uncommon for project
mm.
managers to make this pivot into the role of the Scrum Master because they bring some of those behaviors with them, right? They're usually pretty good at
Right.
writing things down, checking things off, and keeping track of progress. And that is very important as a Scrum Master. And then we
Mm,
asked that question about technical skills. A lot of times, as Scrum Masters, good Scrum Masters are going to take some of that technical aptitude and apply it in the form of showing information. They're going to say, "Hey, let's
mm,
look at our burn down. How have we been
mm,
doing with getting work committed? Are we
mm.
delivering the value that we expected? Are we honoring the commitments that we made?" So a lot of times they take those techniques and apply them in sort of the graphs and other ways in which they can communicate status and progress.
Right. So that's actually the next question, which is coming in on chat on the Q&A box, which is what metrics does a CSM track, or does that depend on which team or which domain they are a part of?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the
Mm,
domain and the team are certainly going to have
mm,
an influence on that. But at a
mm,
minimum, a couple
mhm,
things that a good Scrum Master is going to focus on is they're going to sort of answer that question that the
mhm.
team, and this is kind of important, the team is making a commitment to deliver something. And
Right.
usually it's that time boxed sprint duration. The team's going to say, "Hey, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to get the following things delivered." What the Scrum
Mm,
Master should do is really kind of hold that mirror up to the team and say, "Hey, gang, you said you're going to get these things done. Here we are. We're maybe a couple days into the sprint. Let me show you how you're progressing." Now,
mm,
again, what's important here is the Scrum Master is not really kind of, holding the team, to the fire here, saying, "You said you're going to get this done." It's really showing the team, "Hey, you made this commitment. You have to honor that agreement. You've got the integrity, and I'm going to help you recognize sort of how you're progressing against that." So
right.
a lot of this is about creating space, room for the team to kind of see their progress. That's what the Scrum Master is going to show. Simple metrics are, how are we burning down our work, using that burn down at the end of a sprint,
Mm,
showing what we committed versus what we completed.
mm,
Ideally,
mm.
we'd like to see a one-to-one relationship there. All the things we committed to, we actually got completed. But
Yeah.
sometimes that doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, what
Mm,
we really want the Scrum Master to ask is to be curious. Say, "Hey, you said you're going to get all this work done, but you only got this portion of it done. Why? What happened? What can we do
yeah.
next time so we don't make that same mistake?"
Right. Right. Got it. Another very interesting question that Cecily has posted, which is what is the average pace from zero agile to agile maturity, sorry, that optimize the flow and value within an organization, and how do you deal with resistance due to traditional project management mindset?
Hmm.
In the case of complex environments, or is it okay to take a maturity back step for continuous improvement?
Gosh, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So these are great. This is a great question. There's a lot in there. So let's kind of look at this in sort of pieces. So, what is the average pace from zero agility to agile maturity? So the first is I think the minute you use that term maturity, it does imply that there's going to be sort of some steps that we're going to follow and some maturity destinations we want to get to. So
Mm,
what's the average pace? Well, a lot of this is going to be driven by many factors, many of which were probably going to be outside of your control, but some examples might be industry that you're working in. Okay, so
yeah.
if you happen to be working in a pretty fast-paced industry that's dealing with a lot of maybe market disruptions, software development is a classic example, right? Because it just changes week by week, day by day, hour by hour at times. So you got to be very adaptive, responsive there. But there are some industries that are a little less buffeted by those kind of market disruptions. So think, for example, you may be
Mm,
working at Boeing or one of the big airline Airbus companies out there. They are going to have a much more rigorous process that they need to follow because
mm-hmm,
they've got such high consequences associated with issues around quality, et cetera. So you might find in those organizations it can take a very long time to introduce some of these agile practices because they've got to really kind of understand them and balance them against some of their other organizational goals and sometimes the constraints that they work with. So it really is going to
right.
depend on that. Leadership becomes really important too. I can't tell you how many times I've worked in large organizations that said, "Yeah, we're really want to bring in some agile practices," but the leaders themselves aren't really
Mm,
vested in it. They're not quite
yeah.
prepared to sign up, and that can have a chilling effect on the ability to bring these concepts and ideas into the organization. And then, as you saw in, I think one of the earlier graphs, you kind of showed, some organizations use a hybrid. And
Mm,
it doesn't mean one size fits all. You don't have to be, completely agile in every single thing that you do. There might be really important and compelling reasons you're using more traditional project management practices. So, for example, as I mentioned, you might work in a industry that is heavily regulated. Okay, maybe you're working
mm,
in the life sciences space, and there's a lot of government oversight there to kind of protect the broader community of people. So, they're required to have pretty thorough tests. And those tests
mm,
have to be very documented, and those documents have to be stored a particular way in a particular format. Okay, so
right.
in those settings, yep, more traditional project management practices are going to be quite effective to kind of manage that.
Mm-hmm,
Complex environments, you got lots of integrations and things kind of wired together. Yes, you're going to need to introduce other practices to complement these agile behaviors. Um,
mm-hmm,
and then, I think the last sentence is important too. Is it okay to take a maturity back step for continuous improvement? And the short answer to that is absolutely. A couple things we want to keep in mind is one is we want to meet people where they are. Okay, so
mm,
there's a little resistance. That's okay. Let's listen to that, acknowledge that, work with where that resistance might be coming from. And
mm,
if we need to, if we need to kind of pause and kind of collect ourselves and maybe gather some data,
mm,
absolutely take the time to do that. I think that's really important,
yeah.
which is why, for the record, it is difficult to do agile transformations in a couple weeks or a couple months, often because it involves a lot of organizational change. These
Yeah.
initiatives can take years at times to implement,
Yeah.
particularly in larger enterprises.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another question, I'm not sure if it's related to this, but it's a very interesting question again. Overcommitment is a concern, so
Mhm.
resulting in technical debt. So is realignment acceptable, as in high volume of sprint backlog refinement? Is it acceptable, or is it reflecting or resulting in, shifting goals, milestone, as long as the value increment is not affected? That's the question that we have.
Yeah, that's interesting. So just maybe kind of looking at from through a couple different lenses, perspectives here. So the first is what we really want to do is tie demand to capacity. Okay.
Hmm.
So if you're a team, let's just pretend you're a team of, I don't know, 6 developers, okay, or
Mm,
6 people working on a product. you have a certain amount of capacity that that team can produce that you really can't exceed, right? You can't tell people, hey, you should work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, they're human beings. They're going to work what's appropriate. So that's your capacity. Now, you might have more demand, right? You might have a very big list of things that need to get done. So what becomes really important for the team then is to say, this is what we can produce. Now, we might have more work that we can possibly get done. So we've got to be very focused on priority. What's the most important things that need to get done? Those are the things that the team is going to focus on, and they're going to use their capacity to make commitments to get that work completed. Now, that doesn't mean the things in the backlog, aren't unimportant. We're going to ignore them. No, it's just we're going to get to them when we have the capacity to. And if you happen to be an organization, maybe that says, why isn't your team getting more work done? Well, the short answer is, well, we're getting all the work done we possibly can. If you want us to do more work, you're going
Mm.
to help us maybe add more people to the team. So this is why it becomes very important for a high-performing team to deliver on what they commit to.
Yeah, yeah.
The minute you don't deliver what you said you're going to get done, and you were the one that got to kind of raise your hand and say, yeah, I commit to doing this, that's when your organization is probably going to look at you a little askance and say, well, wait a second, you said you get it done, you didn't get it done. We can't trust you anymore. We've kind of broken that trust bond. So it becomes very important as a team member when you're listening to kind of what the work is and understanding why it's important, and then you make that commitment to get it done. You've got to hold yourself accountable and your team members to getting that work completed.
Hmm. Got it. I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Someone
Ah.
anonymous actually posted. Oh, there's a follow-up question from Cecily, which is what if the team finds planning their capacity as a burden? Okay, as in planning, the capacity is essentially a burden for the team, or they cannot
Hmm.
estimate their weight, their efforts, hours are overestimated or underestimated, or unplanned elements just throw them off. So, how do you handle such a situation?
Yeah, that's not uncommon. Okay, first off,
Mm,
many people are reluctant to estimate work. And the reason
yes.
for that, sort of
Mhm.
understandable, is probably because in the past they've said, hey, I'll get this done by, I don't know, Friday. And then they discover, oh, some new work emerged or something prevented them getting it done, or it was more complex than they expected, or there's a dependency with someone else. And then they got sort of blamed for it. It's like, hey, you said you're getting this done on
Mm,
Friday. You didn't get it done. You're a bad person. We can't trust you. Okay, so we have to kind of recognize and acknowledge that some of those experiences in the past haven't been very positive for people, and as a consequence, they're reluctant to give meaningful estimates. So how do we
mm,
get around that? Well, first off, this is where the Scrum Master comes around. The Scrum Master is going to say, people, I'm going to help here. I'm going to protect you a little bit. It's okay. We get it. We don't have every question answered that we might need to. But what we do want to do is we want to create space for the team to
mm,
ask those questions. So when do we do that? We do that in our planning event at the start of a sprint. We bring the people who want the work with the people
mm,
doing the work. We bring them together and we have those conversations. And the people
mm.
doing the work can ask the questions that they need to. And they
Right.
also get to identify if there might be potential issues that could occur. They might say, wait a second, if we're going to build this thing, we need another team to help us. Are they available? Maybe they're
Mm,
busy themselves. So we need to kind of
mm,
coordinate and align with that. So we want to make sure
mm.
those conversations occur before the team makes the commitment to get the work done. Now, you
Right.
might say to me, but Bryan, we brought this team in, and believe me, I've seen plenty of teams. They start a planning event at this beginning of a sprint, feeling pretty good. Yeah, we're going to get all this work done. And then they get none of it done. They don't get a single thing done in their 2 weeks. And that can
Mm,
feel a little, demoralizing, right? It's like, oh man, I said I was going to do all this done. I didn't get it done. What becomes really important is we dig into why.
yeah.
What happened? And it could be because perhaps what was explained to us wasn't exactly what that customer needed.
Yeah.
right? So we didn't
Yeah.
get the right information, or we did have dependencies, or maybe there's more complexity, or maybe the team members just didn't have access to certain parts of the system or product that they needed to, and that introduced delays. Whatever the reason, we want to learn from that. And this is a big reason why Scrum emphasizes working in these short duration, generally 2-week sprints, because it creates space for you to kind of learn and adapt and make adjustments. And if you made that like 3 months or 6 months, that's a very long time to get feedback, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Scrum really emphasizes, hey, do things in short, and it's going to be okay. Hey, maybe your first couple sprints, you didn't get everything done you expected to, but we want to see steady progress and improvement. Sprints, 4, 5, 6, we start seeing more and more of our ability to kind of deliver to those commitments.
Yeah, absolutely. So our next few questions are actually, in the lines of what we have in mind for the next webinar, which is someone had this question about please provide scenario or examples of how Scrum Masters implement Agile in an organization, and what are the keys to make this successful. That was one question. Someone also had, a question of what does a Scrum Master really do. So yeah, I think how does one really, how can you, if you have any example scenarios, you can share what a
Yeah.
Scrum Master does.
Okay, so yeah, let's maybe start with that one. What's the day in the life of a Scrum Master? I
Yeah,
get up in the
yeah,
morning, I pour myself a coffee, go to my computer, turn it on, jump into a Zoom meeting. So a couple things as a Scrum Master, your day is going to look like. The very first thing is remember, and one way to think about this is think of yourself a little bit of the scorekeeper for a sports game. Okay, where you're tracking the points for, points against, the duration of the game, how much time has passed, how much time remains, what quarter it might be, whatever it might be. So your role there as a Scrum Master is to kind of help the team understand how things are progressing.
mm,
Like where are they? Hey, we've got 3 days left before the end of the sprint. How much work is completed? How much work is ready to be demoed? Hey, so really kind of get a sense of how the team is progressing. Second thing you need to do is really identify where there might be issues. What are the things preventing the team from getting work completed? And
mm,
sometimes that could be as simple as, I was just on a call with a team and one of the team members didn't have access to one of the systems necessary to kind of migrate some of these firewall rules into a new, hosted environment. So they were just stuck. They didn't know who to ask for this permission. So a Scrum Master is going to say, let me help you with that. Let's figure that out together. Let's find who it is that will give you that access. Make sure you got what you need so you can get that commitment delivered. Okay, so you're going to check in a little bit on where there might be issues or blockers. You're going to report back to the team on progress. You're going to connect with those product owners to make sure that they have a good understanding of where the right priorities are, because you want to make sure the team understands that. You should be digging into the value of the work. I was on another call with a client just the other day, and they were they had a big initiative to make sure that people driving into the parking lot could use their toll tag to open the gate because it had stopped
mm,
working. And there's nothing at all wrong with that. Big organization, people driving through. But you should ask the question, okay, is that more important than maybe delivering a new feature and enhancement that our customers who are paying us want? And we just
mm.
want to make sure as a Scrum Master, you're checking in that we understand the why behind the work. Are we doing the right things? Is this the right thing for us to be focusing on as a team? So, and the other thing that the Scrum Master should be doing is just connecting with the team. If you're not
Yeah.
talking to your team members every day, well,
Mhm.
you need to look at that because we want to create that sense of community and find ways in which the teams can connect and collaborate.
Right. I hope that answers your question, Habibul. I think that's a pretty detailed explanation of what a Scrum Master does. And Srijat also, that should have answered your question as well. Another question before we get to all the career transition questions is, again, a couple of similar questions here. Could you provide a comparison of what a project manager does versus what a Scrum Master does? Are these roles interchangeable? What do you think?
Yeah. So yeah, great question. A lot of people
Mm,
ask that same question. First off, what's the difference between a project manager
yeah.
and a scrum master? So a couple things about this. If you get your project management certification, the first thing to be aware of is that this is a discipline as a project manager that can extend across many different industries. So you could be building a great big, you know, dam, perhaps, building roads, infrastructure, things like that, or you can be managing, an IT project. So there's lots of different flavors of project management that exist. And a big emphasis that project managers are going to be focusing on, they're going to be answering the two general questions that get asked of every project. How much is it going to cost and when will it be done? Okay, so they put a lot of focus on ensuring that they're tracking things like budgets, they're tracking things like schedules, they're managing the scope of the work that's being completed. And that is sort of I guess one way to think of it is sort of a frame of reference. This is sort of some organizations prefer to think of all work as sort of a project. It's a well-defined sort of period. It has a defined start and a completion, and we're going to manage our work there. Oftentimes, too, they have people that are assigned to projects, often, 20% of their time or 50% of their time or 33.3% of their time is assigned to the project. Agile
Mm,
looks at this problem a little bit differently. They say,
okay.
hey, instead of trying to kind of build out this complex project schedule with all these dependencies and assigning people in sort of partial amounts to getting work done, and then you have a project manager just kind of constantly tracking how much time is reported and making sure people are sort of assigned to their task. Agile says, let's just think of a backlog of work with the most important, highest value work items at the top of that list. Let's have a dedicated team of cross-functional skill sets, and that team's
Mm,
going to be responsible for pulling work. They only pull work when they have the capacity and the skills to get it done. Then they make a commitment to getting that work completed, and we deliver that work in these short 2-week kind of sprints. So
right.
just a different way in which we're going to approach it. So that's sort of the big difference. So if you're a project manager,
Mm,
you're building schedules and you have dependencies and start to finish dependencies and start to start dependencies, all those kind of terms that come out of the project management domain and are very applicable, particularly to construction projects, things like that,
mm,
versus Scrum Master, which is going to be very lightweight, really focus on enabling people, making sure that we're focused on the most important things that get done that deliver the highest amount of value. Okay. So
right.
they're both responsible for getting things done, project managers and Scrum Masters, just sort of different ways in which they approach
Ways,
how
yeah,
that work done.
how they're done. Yes, yes. All right, I think now we're on to some career transition related questions, a lot of them actually. We've got Nitesh, who's a service delivery manager and he's into IT infrastructure management. He needs your expert advice on how
Ah,
CSM on how CSM will help him in his career.
well, there's a couple ways it will help you. The very
Mm,
first off, as I mentioned, I think this domain, this space as a Scrum Master is probably a little more AI proof. I think
hmm
organizations are going to increasingly turn into Scrum Masters to kind of enable teams. So I think
hmm
there's a pretty compelling reason right out of the gate to focus on that. Second thing is, you might be happy to hear that you can take a lot of what you learn as a certified Scrum Master and apply it into your personal life too. Guess what? We've got responsibilities outside of work that need attention, and some of these techniques and practices are going to extend very effectively there too. So I think generally speaking, these are just good life skills to have. They should probably teach a lot of this in schools to help kids as they get ready to kind of transition into adulthood. So there's pretty compelling reasons there. And the final reason is it does open up a lot of interesting career paths. So part
Mm,
of this might be in the form of, hey, I've been working with my team and the team's delivering a lot of value. So now I'm going to help support multiple teams and kind of align their work and manage them. And that might be sometimes we call that a release train engineer. That's from a scaling set of agile practices called the Scaled Agile Framework. You could explore options as a product owner, someone responsible for a product and ensuring that they're connecting with stakeholders and prioritizing the work and defining value. You could find yourself as an agile coach, someone like me.
Mm.
If you like
Yeah,
to kind of work and engage with people and teams, well, you get an opportunity to kind of connect with them and give them advice and guidance and support. So lots of interesting career paths emerge after you get your CSM.
absolutely. So, another again related question. So, is it necessary that I have experience, as in, general job experience? So, let's say someone who's an ex complete fresher, uh, can he or she get a job or become a Scrum Master? What do you suggest?
Well, this comes back, I think, to the very first question we had when someone said,
Yeah,
"Hey,
yeah.
whatever, 17 years of experience as a PMO, and I got my CSM last
Mm,
week. I want to be a CSM. I want to be a Scrum Master." Well,
yeah.
sometimes don't always get that opportunity immediately, but we can be a little bit
Mm,
creative, right? We can say, "Hey, I'm going to practice these techniques in my current organization."
mm,
And they might not even be comfortable using terms like Scrum, and say, fine, we'll call it a daily stand-up. I mean, we've got lots of ways in which we can kind of describe the intent behind these practices. And what becomes really important too is ask yourself a little bit, okay, where are we now? Okay, if you're
mm,
working with a team that maybe just doesn't feel very satisfied with the
mm,
work that they're getting completed, or maybe their customer satisfaction, we're doing a lot of work, but our customers don't seem to think they're getting a lot of value from it. Scrum has very good answers to those types of
mm,
questions. And they include, okay, are we connecting with our stakeholders? Are we giving them opportunities to provide us feedback? So maybe we can release things in smaller amounts and get their feedback and make adjustments. So I would really encourage you, if you're eager to apply these techniques and skills, start where you are. And by the way, this doesn't have to be in an organization. You could say, hey, I'm volunteering at, one of my volunteer organizations, my animal
mm,
shelters, stuff like that. You can apply these techniques very effectively and then really study the results and ask yourself, are we getting value from this work? And
yeah.
if you're not, well, again, pause and adapt. Check in with yourself. Do a retrospective.
Mm,
What should we be doing differently, and what can we do to improve?
right, right. Got it. All right. I think we lost that question, but yeah, I think this is should answer the learner's question. Um, okay. I think I'm assuming the answer is no. So, is there any minimum experience that a person should have? Uh, is is there say a couple of years or say 3 years? Is that advised? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously organizations are going to be interested in finding
Mm,
people who have actual experience.
mm-hmm,
So if you've just gotten your CSM and you haven't had a chance to kind of apply the techniques, my guidance would be, yep, start finding ways in which you can apply these techniques. Because when you're having those interviews, that's a question that's going to come up. Where have you used these techniques? What results have you seen? So it's important to kind of ask
mm,
yourself, where did you start and what progress or
mm,
changes have you seen from that? So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say there's going to be needed for some experience, but I don't think you can quantify like, yeah, you have to have 3 years because where would you get the 3 years? Well, you're going to have to start with
right.
somewhere.
Got it. Okay. Right. Then let's look at one more question on career transition. This person is a sales manager with over 17 years of managing team members for achieving targets in a telecom company. What are the steps that he needs to take to become a Scrum Master professional? I think this you can just give general advice to anyone transitioning to becoming a Scrum Master. What should their roadmap or say learning path be?
Yeah, well, at a minimum, it is going to start with taking a course. The good news about
Mm,
the certified Scrum Master course, it's a very accessible course. There's no prerequisites required.
mm,
Generally speaking, it's a fun course. You've probably taken other courses in the past that might not have felt super fun. Well, let me tell you, the CSM is fun. Generally, they're kind of lively sessions, and they're very, team and people centric. So
mm,
get that CSM, step one. Step two, find ways in which you can apply some of these practices and techniques whether it's in your current organization, whether that's at home, organizing the garage, whatever tasks you need to get done over the weekend, or maybe it's some volunteer organization you're part of. So
Mm.
find ways in
Mm.
which you can apply the techniques and kind of hone your craft. It's like anything. If you're going to learn, woodworking, well, you gotta get into a workshop and start building some things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to start. Uh, Joy, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. A few more questions about, okay. Sailesh has this question at the beginning of the project and discovery session to client. Everyone will tell that, okay, so everyone says to the client that they'll adopt agile, and once the project is in progress, they don't follow. So, how does one handle this mismatch?
Hmm. Well, a couple
Mm,
of things about that. So first off, let's just look at the question, right? Someone says they're going to do something and they don't do the thing they said they're going to do. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's an easy answer to that beyond the fact that, like, yeah, we've got to honor the commitments you made. If you said you're going to use these
mm,
practices and techniques, well, you got to hold yourself accountable to doing them. Now, that doesn't mean you can't uncover that, hey, maybe this doesn't work the way we anticipated. Maybe we went into this with some good expectations. So how would we deal with that? Well, we should have some moments in our
mm.
delivery life cycle where we get
Yeah,
feedback. Okay, so if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
making commitments to a client, we're going to follow and adopt Agile. And then in the first 2 weeks, you discover, well, the client won't attend our daily stand-ups and not available for our planning sessions and reviews. Well, you should check and say, well, hold on, why? What's going on? And the client might say, we're super busy. Like we're out dealing with
Mm,
clients. We don't have the opportunity. And we say, okay, fine. Let's have the conversation. Let's figure out what we need to adjust so we can still sort of honor the intent of these agile practices. So um,
mm.
I'm not going to let you off the hook saying, yeah, oh, there's nothing you can do, and say, no, if you're making the commitment to it, you got to hold yourself
Have to stick
accountable
by
to
it.
that. You've got to have places where you check in and think of these as retrospectives. It's okay if things aren't working the way you anticipated, but
Mm.
do ask the questions and be curious and say, why isn't it working and what
Why?
should we do differently?
Yeah, I think amazing. Thanks for that insight. Another interesting question. I'm not sure if this is readily available. Is there a template to monitor the daily or to have these daily Scrum stand-ups? Is there a template one can follow?
Well, I mean, the short answer is there is a technique, and
Mm-hmm.
if you read the Scrum Guide, and there's lots of good literature out there
Mm-hmm.
for the daily Scrum, that's that 15-minute check-in.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the template is there's 3 questions that are asked by
Mm-hmm.
each person. What did you do yesterday? What are you
Mm-hmm.
planning to do today? And do you have any issues or blockers? So that's sort of the standard template for the daily Scrum. Now, in addition, I find it a good practice to show progress. So let's look at our burn down. Here's the work we committed to. How are we burning
Mm.
that work down to the end of our sprint? That can be really informative for a team. And there could be other practices and techniques you might want to consider as well.
Manikam, I hope you took note of that. And in case you missed it, do not worry. We'll also share the recording
There
with
we
you.
go.
Yeah. So, a couple of more questions here. Can you please help on test-driven development for CSM? That's a question that Sailesh has.
Mm,
And also, how do we control spillovers? Yeah, both
spillovers.
these questions. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, test-driven development is a practice that the team is going to perform. Okay, so you've
Mm,
got a software development team. They're going to write some code. If you're familiar with test-driven development, it might feel a little counterintuitive, but actually you start with a test. So you write a test, you watch it fail because you've got no code. Then you write some code to watch your test pass. And the whole idea is you build this sort of rich, sort of elaborate framework of tests, these small little tests. So anytime you make any code changes, it's going to show up in the test and the test will validate it. So as a CSM, you remember we said that you're not a technical person, right? You don't need to be.
yeah.
But what you can do is when the team is pulling work, to get completed in a sprint, you can check in and say, hey, don't forget, we're going to write our unit tests and we're going to use this tool to do it. And, what's our definition of done? How do we know that we've completed this work? Well, we've
Yeah.
written the test necessary for it. So you can advocate for these practices that the team has agreed to. How do you
Wow.
control spillovers? That's a very powerful question. Oh, it's the same person asking the question. Awesome. Okay, well, so
Simple.
what would a Scrum Master do? A spillover basically is, hey, the team made a commitment to getting work done in that sprint, but they didn't get it all done. That work is going to spill over to the next sprint. How do we deal with that? Well, the team has to deal with that. So the Scrum Master would say, hey, team, you said you're
Mm.
going to get these 10 user stories completed in this sprint, but you only did 4 of the 10. 6 of them are spilling over. I wonder why. Why did that happen?
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's an opportunity for the team to kind of reflect. And that's where a retrospective really becomes very powerful, because that's a place where the team say, well, the reason that happened is actually this work wasn't very well defined. So next time we need better information so we can make a commitment, or we had a dependency on another team, or as it
Mm.
turns out, we didn't have all the right technology in place to get this done. I don't know why we committed to this when we did. And we'd say, okay, well, let's not do that anymore. Let's get the information we need. So lots of things, but the key there, sorry if I'm not getting your name right, Paula Sailesh, uh,
Stylish. Stylish. Yeah.
Sailesh, okay, Sailesh. So the key there, Sailesh, is to ask the team, why did you have the spillover? And let the team give you the answer
Mm.
and then make changes for the next sprint.
I think the other question that we have on the Q&A box is also related to this. Is it because the team was not committed enough or motivated enough? How do we ensure that this is there? Or let's say Stella has put a question on the chat. Someone is not taking the work seriously. Is it okay to get a replacement? What is the process to handle low motivation or low commitment?
Yeah, that's it. Well, first off, there could be a lot of dynamics there. It's entirely
Hmm.
possible. Maybe someone's dealing with an ailing family member, and that's taking a lot of their energy. They've got, young kids that are, keeping them kind of busy. Could be those reasons as well. But at the heart of this, how do we keep people motivated? Well, it's about understanding why the work is important. And I
Hmm.
can't tell you, I would say the single biggest coaching role that I perform is often helping people understand why. Why am I
Hmm.
doing this? Why is it important? Like, who is this helping? So
Hmm.
taking the time to make sure that you're spending, time educating, helping people understand the value of the work they're performing. Because if you don't think it's important, yeah, like, why would you be that committed to it? You didn't know what
Right.
was this is helping. So yeah,
Yeah.
take a little time there. In fact, there's some great material by Dan Pink, who has done some good work in this space. And he says clarity is probably the single most important thing that teams need to excel. If you want to be a high performing
Hmm.
team, provide the clarity on the value of the work that they're performing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's the biggest quality or something that, a Scrum Master should carry. Right. Great. Okay. I think these this session really helped open up, maybe kind of give clarity to the learners on what they should do next. Right. So I think if you guys have any more questions, please put them on the Q&A box. Continue to do that. And Bryan, meanwhile, we could just talk about what we offer in Simplilearn and how it helps learners become a Scrum Master literally in a weekend. So if you can just talk about the structure of the course and what we teach as well.
For sure. Yeah. So, like I said, this is a great course in the sense that it's very accessible, unlike a lot of other certifications that often require prerequisites like the PMP and some of the Scaled Agile framework, amongst many others. So you're gonna just show up day one, sort of a clean canvas here. First, we're gonna understand what is Agile and this idea of the Agile Manifesto. The Agile Manifesto, you can go to agilemanifesto.org and you'll see the
Mm,
4 values, the 12 principles. So that's really the core foundation of that. Then we'll pivot into Scrum, what that represents, including the 3 pillars of Scrum that are sort of which the framework is based upon. And then we'll dig into things like, what does the Scrum team look like? What is a product backlog? And then we'll look at the 4 events that we have that you heard a little bit about. We do some planning, daily stand-ups, reviews, and retros, and then any additional topics that kind of fit in there. So really, it's an end-to-end walkthrough, starting with just the foundation of Agile to the specifics of Scrum. When you leave the session, you will be able to apply these techniques the next day. So that,
Yeah.
from my experience, I teach lots of courses. I've taken lots of courses. The ones that I get the most from are the ones that I can apply these ideas as soon as I leave the class. So this
Yeah.
is a really good course for that very reason.
Absolutely. And also, of course, you get amazing curriculum and also understand how you can apply these concepts in a real-time scenario as well. Along with that, what you also get is complimentary access for two Agile and Scrum courses that are worth $500, and a 2-year membership with Scrum Alliance is also included in the course fee that you pay here. And along with the exam fee, which is the CSM exam fee, is included, and you earn 20 PDUs and 16 SUs. So, for people who don't know, maybe Bryan, just a quick description of what PDUs and SUs are would help, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great question. And the acronyms stand for Professional Development Units, and
Hmm.
SEUs are Scrum Educational Units. So really, these are ways in which you maintain your certification. So the good news is you don't have to rewrite any exams or reapply. But you do need to do is demonstrate that you've been learning and applying some of these techniques and practices in your day-to-day work. So for example, if you have a PMP right now, you would use this session to say, hey, I spent an hour listening to some ideas on, how to apply Agile effectively, and that constitutes 1 PDU. It would also be 1 SEU. So if you've
Mm.
got your Scrum certification, your CSM, you could also use this session to kind of earn an SEU for that. And that just maintains your certification over the course of its duration.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get all of these perks as a part of enrolling in the course. And someone was asking about how long does it take to complete, the course. So it literally takes just a couple of days. And what you see here are the cohort dates for the upcoming weekends, some cohorts for the weekdays as well, along with your trainer names. And what you see here is the price for enrolling to this coaching. So if you belong to anywhere else apart from India, you could click on the link that I shared on the chat and check the cohort dates along with timing, sorry, who your trainer is, and of course, class calendar, yeah, all of that. And if you're really interested to get started right away, you could click on enroll now and become a part of our upcoming cohort. But let's say you would want to talk to a learning advisor before you do this. All you can do is I'm just going to launch a quick poll that's going to ask you your interest in the course. So if you're interested to talk to a learning advisor and be a part of our upcoming cohort, you could select a yes on the poll that I just launched. Okay. And all of these details about the course curriculum that Bryan mentioned is also available on the course page. You can see that these are the free courses that we were talking about. And this is the live class curriculum that Bryan was mentioning about introduction to Agile, the pillars of Scrum, the Scrum values, what are the Scrum events, artifacts, what's the Scrum team looks like, all of these things along with the free courses. Okay, so you could also download this syllabus in order to understand this in more detail. You could check out who course advisors are as well. So all of these are CSTs, which is certified Scrum trainers. And yeah, check these details here and also check out some learner reviews for how this course helped these learners leverage this certification and eventually becoming Scrum Masters. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about the course, and let's just head to the Q&A box and see if there are any last minute questions. Rahman, I think I missed your question. I'm so sorry. I assume that you were a fresher. And hence, I said, okay, let's take, yeah, sorry, Rahman, I think I missed your question. Bryan, this learner has a question. This person has 8 years of experience in software development and agile technical project management. Which certification is best for this person? So is CSM good? Should this person do PMP or do PSM1? What's your suggestion?
Yeah. Well, a couple things about that. One is it might be a little bit organizationally dependent. So you could be working in an organization
Hmm.
that does put
Hmm.
more emphasis on traditional project management, in which case, if that's the career path you want to follow, you might want to start with the PMP. Um, However, what I do want to be clear about, there's nothing that says you can't be both. So get your
Hmm.
PMP and get your CSM. They pair very effectively with one another. And then I
Hmm.
think I heard you
Hmm.
say the PSM, the Professional Scrum Master
Yeah.
certification, that's another certification offered by a different um, organization.
Hmm.
And possibly the big difference between the CSM and the PSM is the PSM doesn't require you to take a course. You can just write the exam. And for some people, that's pretty appealing, right? Because they've been a Scrum Master for many years. They don't really need to go through the course. If this is a little bit new to you, my absolute guidance would be take the course. The course is going to be so valuable. It's going to be so interesting. You're going to create a network of similar-minded folks. So really encourage you to kind of definitely, start with the course. If you've been a Scrum Master for 10 years
Hmm.
and you just want the certification, yeah, the PSM might be a good option for you. So they're both going to, the CSM and the PSM teach exactly the same thing.
Right. Got it. Got it. So you're saying pair it up, pair the
Oh,
CSM
yeah.
with the PMP certification as
Yeah.
well.
It's a natural pairing, hand in glove. Exactly.
Got it. All right. So another very interesting session comes to an end. I mean, interesting is probably, just putting it very normally, but I really enjoyed listening to you, and you were passionately explaining how Scrum methodology works, what kind of mindset one should have, and also I think some solutions to real problems that people face as well, about how to handle conflicts, how to handle low motivation, how to handle situations that are not very pleasant. So I think all of that as well, slightly different from what we do. So yeah, I think learners, if you've got any more thoughts to share on the chat box for Bryan, that would be great. Uh, let me know on the chat what you felt, what you learned, what your takeaway was, anything that you would like to share on the chat box. And I've also kept the poll live for the next couple of minutes before we wrap up. Please make sure you answer a yes in case you're interested in being a part of our upcoming cohort. Or any reactions would also help. Let's say you really like the session, 100 or
Give it a
class or
score.
whatever. Excellent. How do we get in touch with Bryan? Yes, I expected that question to come in. Let me just share the link to his LinkedIn profile.
Sure, yes. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer questions, but also interested to hear how things, progressing for folks. Love to hear people get certifications and new roles.
Yep, definitely inspiring, informative. Yes, all of that.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, great session. Lots of fantastic questions. Oh my gosh.
Fantastic questions. Great
Mhm.
questions. Really amazing questions that we got today. Yeah, I see you're already answering that question. One question on the chat, on the Q&A, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've shared Bryan's LinkedIn profile on the chat.
Mhm.
It's awesome. It was awesome, and you made the difference. I think, Sailesh, yeah, great. Definitely. This is why we thought of doing such a session which focuses on answering questions. Okay, Shijat, what's your question? Put it on the Q&A box very quickly. All right, so I'm just going to end this poll right here and also launch another poll asking for people's names for getting a certificate for attendance for the webinar. So just make sure you answer this poll as well. And yeah, those can just leave their takeaways, whatever you learned, whatever you felt on the chat box. It's always nice to read comments from
Right.
learners. And of course, if you have suggestions for us for the upcoming session as well, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, yes. Right. Bryan, I think while you were answering this question about, low motivation, ask why someone, didn't really stick to the commitment. So did you have such issues? I had this question in my mind and I wanted to ask you this. So did
Yeah.
you face or have these issues, or how do you handle that? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it really happens more than you might expect. It's, I don't want to use the word common, but certainly does happen on teams. So a couple things is one, as I mentioned earlier, and you use this term too, and I think it's a really good one, is empathy. Um, you
Mm,
know, let's recognize at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're all trying to do the best we can. Let's check in with that person. We might uncover, I'm working with a colleague right now. She's a very senior leader. And her father is, got some health issues. So she's spending a lot of time, making sure she's giving him support. And as a consequence, it's just hard for her to be as available as she'd like to be. But when you recognize that, you see that, you say, hey, you know what can I do to help? So connect with the person, have that conversation, maybe have a coffee with them and just say, hey, it just feels like you're not as present, as you expect. You might also uncover, they might just say, you know what? I have a real challenge with person X. Okay, well, maybe we can
mm,
figure out a way in which we can kind of bring people together, or you might discover, they might say, gosh, I have no idea why we're doing all the work that we're doing. I mean, and then great, let's spend a little time talking about why this is important, making sure people get
mm.
context. And by the way, I do this quite a bit with teams that large organizations often have teams spread around the world. So, I was
Yeah.
working, for example, big company here in the US called Home Depot. They're a big do-it-yourself company. If you live in the US, you absolutely know about Home Depot. But in India, you don't have Home Depots everywhere, right? So our India team, they had no idea what we were talking about half the time. Like they've never stepped into a Home Depot. So spending a little time explaining, why this is, what kind of company it is, why people come here, what kind of things it sells, actually was really informative for them. They're like, oh man, that makes so much sense. I get it. Okay, let's,
Mm,
they felt a lot more motivated. So yeah, sometimes just spending a little time explaining things can go a long way.
mm. Right. Okay. I think empathy is the word, just to
Yeah,
summarize.
there
You
we
said, great. All right.
go.
I'm ending this poll as well, collective names for giving out certificates for attending this webinar. Thank you so much, learners. Your questions were really amazing today. And, I mean, it showed, the experience showed as well in your questions. Bryan, any closing thoughts before we end?
I think the questions people are asking and the experience that the vast majority of the folks had here demonstrate that if you are on this path, you're attending this call, then take, the next step. Keep moving forward. Get yourself enrolled. Learn some of these techniques. I mean, these are good techniques, not just in the organizations you work for, but even in your personal life. So just
Yeah.
maintain the momentum. I mean, it's you're showing interest. You're making commitments. Keep going. That's what I'd say.
Absolutely. All right. Great. Thank you so much, Bryan, once again for your time. And thank you, learners, for asking these
Yeah.
questions and being enthusiastic in learning. It was great hosting all of you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.